Playmates, what are you doing? Playmates, we need to sit down. We need to have a bit of a talk because I'm a little bit confused with where these new toys are kind of coming into play here because for anyone that's not aware, I believe it was yesterday or maybe the day before, I don't know. I'm always late, but from what I've seen, this was announced yesterday, kind of, not really. So Playmates Toys, they got some figures, right? But they're not exactly what you think they are, if I'm being honest. I mean, once you've looked at them, listen, if you're kind of new to this whole thing with Ninja Turtles and all that, you might look at these figures and you might be like, oh, but that actually doesn't look bad. Um, well, they're not like ass, obviously. They're not like the worst figures in the world, but it's still confusing as to what their direction is because basically these figures that they're releasing, they're not exactly new. They're pretty much the same figures we've seen like 100 times, but now they're making it like more complicated than it needs to be, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it, so I should just show it to you, honestly, and then I'll just put the context in later. So we were shown four new figures. I shouldn't even call them new. Even when I made my post in the community tab, I didn't even put that these were new figures. I just put that these are like some toys Playmates just pumped out of nowhere, and it's, well, just take a look. So first four, you got the Ninja Elite series, we got the Leo in disguise, and I should probably lower the brightness on that because I don't know how to work with that when it comes to doing these videos. Sometimes whenever I do these live videos, either the brightness is okay or it's not bright enough. Okay, so I do apologize, for having the worst quality ever. And this thing is still bright. Jeez. Okay, that's more like it. So you see, that's one of them. So you can see there, we got your Leo in the skies, right? That's not so bad, you know. Oh, look, they're even nice to put a promotional pic on there. That's great. All right, just him, doesn't look bad, right? It's pretty good, Next one, Michelangelo. He gets his own, Okay, he gets his own disguise. That's pretty cool. I've always loved the Ninja Turtles and the trench coats anyway, so that's great. Yeah, and that's not just the only thing. Not just the movie-based stuff. They also released Shredder, based on the original cartoon. Yeah, right. Okay, that's how you look. I mean, it's not bad despite the tiny ass head, but okay. And then lastly, Triceraton, which is admittedly the best figure out of all of them because it is mostly an original sculpt, right? And we got the last picture right here. So, okay, sarcasm aside, right? What's the deal with these figures, right? Okay, they're not bad, but here's the thought, right? All those figures you've just seen, they've been out for a pretty long time already. So it's like, okay, what's their deal here? Because originally these came from two packs. So here's where the story part comes in. I believe either in 2012 or 2013. This was, I want to say 2013 if I'm being honest. 'Cause that was when the 2012 Nickelodeon Turtles were booming. I mean, it's not hard to see why. That's kind of what got me into Turtles to begin with, if I'm being honest with you. And then after that, I started watching the original cartoon and all that. So yeah, obviously the toy line was booming, so they wanted to kind of, branch out their turtle stuff. So they invented this idea of creating this thing called the classics line. I think that's what it's called, the TMNT Classics, something like that. And basically, these were like kind of their attempt at creating like adult collectibles of like Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. It was like their version of doing it. And a lot of people were really excited about it. They released six figures. They got the four turtles, Bebop, and Rocksteady. The only one I ever owned from that collection specifically was Bebop, unfortunately. I don't got all the other ones. Although I do have like the new ones that they pumped out a year ago or so, but that's not really saying much because that also has its own controversy, only because you see the body mold that they use for the Ninja Turtles has been reused so many times. So that's kind of where we're at today, where, oh, and that's not even mentioning, they also did make figures based off of the original movies as well, and that kind of collectible style. Basically, they were superposable. They got their own neat little accessories. They got their own base, and the only downside to it is that their fingers were articulated. So yeah, that was the only bad thing about it, because then you couldn't really kind of move them around without them dropping the weapons. So obviously that came out a pretty long time ago. We're talking like between like 2013, 2015, 2016, maybe. I don't know. They were releasing these things simultaneously, and there were plans to kind of continue with it. I mean, there were like, I remember prototypes for Shredder and Krang, and I remember too, a lot of people were looking forward to these figures. They really wanted to get them. And that's good. But here we are, time has passed, and now we got companies like NECA Toys, Super 7. Those is other one with which name I forget, but I mostly see those figures at like Walmart and GameStop. So obviously there's a lot of other companies trying to take aim at the Ninja Turtle license, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's great that they're making their own toys, and not to mention that NECA, they're spreading out their toy line into not only doing stuff based on the cartoon, but they've done stuff based on the arcade, the original movies. Now they're doing like the last Ronin comic book arc, the Ninja Turtles Archie comic. So obviously they don't plan on stopping anytime soon, and it's gonna be about time until they just make up their own shit. And you know what? They already are, because they're making the Universal Monster Turtles. So yeah, unfortunately for Playmates, they've been kind of falling flat, and it's upsetting because obviously they were the ones that owned the Ninja Turtle license to begin with, and pretty much all their toys were fantastic. The original cartoon, great. Even Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation, they were okay. But I think we can all admit the toys were way better than the show. Let's admit it. Come on now. 2003 Turtles, great. 2012 Turtles, pretty cool. Rise of TMNT, even though it didn't last long, I thought the figures were fine. Honestly, I would even go as far as to say they were pretty good figures, except for when they couldn't hold their weapons. That was my only personal gripe. I hate that they couldn't even hold their own weapons. The only one that can hold his weapons is Raphael and Donatello. And Donatello, he could just hold him with both hands. And Raph, because he's the big, buff, muscular guy, and his hands are kind of like this, he could grab his weapons with no problem. But Mikey and Leonardo, I don't know what happened. They can't manage to keep their weapons in their hands for so long. So yeah, the point that I'm trying to make is that you can see that huge span of history of them making these toys, So it's like, what happened? Honestly, I think that's what it is too. Yeah, all these other companies now making Ninja Turtle stuff. So obviously, because their stuff is more better, they're gonna consumers are gonna want to go to them instead of Playmates. So yeah, it makes sense. But now poor Playmates, they're kind of left behind, because it's like they kind of have the license loosely now, because they still make figures, but they're not as great as they used to be, because now they're going in all sorts of weird directions, So obviously the one that I'm talking about today is how, even for the past few years or so, it looks like they're trying to chase after the NECA trend of creating like the Ninja Turtle 2-packs, because that's what they started doing. Except the problem was that they were just re-releasing their classic turtle figures. So, like, obviously, it's those old sculpts that people aren't really a fan of. Most people call them outdated because they're not bad, but it's like by today's standards, it's like, I don't know. There's obviously better options to go with. So it's not hard to see why people would think that. I'm gonna get to the obvious in a little bit, but I'll explain. I don't remember exactly when. I don't know if it was. I highly doubt it was 2020. I think it was in 2021. I'm not too sure. That's when they start, peeking out the whole 2-pack ordeal. There was, if I can remember from the top of my head, they released Leonardo and Rocksteady, Michelangelo versus Bebop, and the shocking, the ones with the actual like original sculpts, is there's the Donatello versus Shredder, and that Shredder figure was an original sculpt, and then there was the Raphael versus Triceraton, and that Triceraton has an original sculpt. And what I mean by that is, well, those were figures we've never seen before, specifically the Shredder and Triceraton. The only difference is that Shredder figure, we've actually seen that during the whole creation process of it. Basically, all those years ago, back in 2014 or 2015, when they announced that they were going to make Shredder and Krang, and they showed us the prototype, basically, Shredder finally got his own figure, even though it's like way too late. So that's the problem. And before you question it, yes, that new Shredder that they just announced, that's the exact same one that was in that 2-pack. The only difference is that now it's by itself. So I guess if you missed out, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with re-releases. A lot of people hate re-releases, but they exist for a reason. So please, shut up. Come on now. It's not my fault that I'm too late to reach the trend, even though I don't know if you really want to get these figures. But the thing is, obviously someone's buying them. They're pretty popular, whether we think that they're crap or not, because someone's buying them. people are buying them, you know. And the reason why I'm saying that is because they make like these weird, crazy, bizarre 2 packs. We got this whole wave with like Ninja Turtle versus Cobra Kai. I remember people being so pumped for it, but then as soon as the figures came out, people were not really that interested. And basically, it's the same sculpted Ninja Turtle figures, but now they got like these robes on. I mean, they look pretty cool. I mean, I like them for how they are. I mean, I like looking at them from my shelf. At least they look pretty decent from there. But obviously, here's the catch though. If you've never owned those figures to begin with, of course it's gonna be like eye candy to you. Of course it's gonna be like, oh wow, that's actually pretty cool. And then of course it comes with the cast, like from Cobra Kai. Or let's not forget their newest ones, TMNT versus Street Fighter. Those, unpopular opinion, I kind of like those. I actually think those are pretty good. Surprisingly, I was pretty shocked to see how decent they were. Yeah, same digital sculpt, same thing you've seen, just painted slightly different, but at least I could differentiate it from the others. At least we have that. And Street Fighters themselves, Ryu, I don't know how to say it, and Chun Li, surprisingly, they're pretty good. I was like, wow, I was pretty shocked because I thought that they weren't going to be so good when you look at them in person. But I'm like, oh, all right. And in case you're wondering, I did do a toy hunt of that on my channel. So if you want to take a look at that, I have a whole playlist full of just my toy hunts. So yeah, it should be there somewhere because I don't know how long ago that was. And the last one, the previous one that just came out, TMNT and Stranger Things. So okay, but here's the thing: those are actually really good figures because those are original sculpt and they got accessories, and they're actually pretty decent. It's just shocking, It's like, huh, okay, now we're actually seeing something kind of new, despite it being kind of ridiculous. But you know what? I think that's pretty cool. At least they're doing like the most craziest things possible. I rather for them, instead of just chasing a trend, just do some crazy shit in general. That be, you know what I mean? I'm just waiting for the inevitable Ninja Turtles versus Marvel's Adventures. I mean that will never happen, plus it's a licensing issue, so I can only imagine. But then again, if they were able to get the rights to do Cobra Kai and Street Fighter figures, and mind you, they're still doing them. We still need to get Donatello and Raph versus whoever. I don't remember exactly what they come with. And I know the other half of the TMNT and Stranger Things 2 packs were announced maybe a month back, so maybe. But these news figures are kind of weird. I'm just saying because they're releasing them in single packs. You know what I mean? So I wonder why. It's kind of weird, And like I said, they're not even bad figures. It's just a weird decision. Oh, and mind you, because the Turtles in Disguise figures are supposed to be based off of the original movie, may I mind you, the only turtle that ever wore a disguise was Raphael, so they couldn't even get that right. I mean, they wouldn't just do Leonardo and Michelangelo. Of course, they're gonna do Raphael and Donatello eventually, but it's like, why didn't you just release them? In the announcement though. Why you gotta wait until you know what I mean? It's just kind of weird. I don't get it. I don't know if you guys get it. I'm just saying. I think it's kind of a weird decision. Listen, I'm not mad because, like I say, these figures they're not bad. It's just that it's way too late though. These should have been released a long time ago. That's the issue. And it makes me sad because I'm gonna point the obvious out where people aren't really a big fan of this company like they used to. And if you ask me, I don't think they're gonna go away and disappear because they don't do good with Ninja Turtles anymore. They've been making awesome Godzilla figures. Those are the bomb. I love those so much because not only because I'm a huge Godzilla fan, but of course those are actually generally good figures that are painted, pretty much, got a lot of things going on, So I don't want to be like, oh, this company should bite the dust. No, that's ridiculous. I don't want to do that. And before you go after me, calling me a shill and whatever, look, I get it. Okay, I'm willing to admit that there's been times where I was like, okay, these figures are not great, but they're not the worst thing that they pumped out. I'm just saying, people are having a heart attack over these figures, and it's like, I'm pretty sure, in my deep and honest opinion, if you ask me, I feel like when they make these figures, I think it has mostly to do with just doing them out of obligation, only because all these other companies are ahead of the game, and because Playmates used to be like the big people that used to own the Ninja Turtles license, and obviously they got to put their fair share of the pie. it kind of makes sense that maybe they will probably have to pump out a figure once in a while, whether they want to or not, because they probably want to do some good stuff. But obviously, we don't know that. We barely see them anymore. And I think that also has to do with because of their reception. Because think about it, every single time something new Playmates related comes out, it's always met very, very negative. That's you got like some Rotten Tomatoes thrown at you and all that. They get like bad press. So I can only imagine if they were to come out in a booth. I don't that scares me. The only time that they ever really came out, and back at toy fairs and all that is when they announced the TMNT versus Street Fighter 2 packs and all that, and same goes for the TMNT and Stranger Things 2 pack. But then again, that was about it. Nothing new, nothing revolutionary. So it's like, okay, that's pretty sad. It would be nice to actually see what's his name? I forgot his name. I know the Pixel Dan, he's a YouTuber. He used to do like interviews with this guy and everything. I haven't seen him in a while. That's kind of sad. You know what I mean? So it's like Playmates, we barely really see him anymore. So it kind of makes it can't you can't help but question what are they doing? What's their goal here making these new figures? Because obviously they're not new. We've seen these before. Did they plan on doing something new? Because I remember there were like rumors and all that online saying that they were gonna come back and create classic figures. Is this what they meant? I'm not against it. I'm just saying I want to see some new stuff though. I don't want to see the same thing over and over and over again. Like I said, someone's gonna buy them. So whether we complain about them or not, someone out there's gonna snatch them up. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get it. It's probably an easy alternative. I understand. Okay, as a collector myself, it's not easy. Especially when you're into a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff I like. I like Ninja Turtles. I like Godzilla. I like Ultraman. I'm into all that, and I just got into Marvel Legends, and it's like it's fantastic. I love them, but obviously, there's your budget, there's the time that you got to make to go actually find these figures, and then there is the ultimate getting scared that you're going to run out of room scenario. So you got to decide, do you really want to fill your room up with these figures? Are you willing to do that? Because like I said for the 100th time, they're not bad figures. They're kind of outdated. I'll be very honest. So obviously, this is not meant for me to boo them or anything like that. In fact, you know what? I'm willing to see what else they'll do with these new toys. Let's see. All I'm gonna say is, please, we need to see something new. That's all I'm saying. All right. So no hate. I'm just slightly confused. That's all. Also, this is not what I wanted to talk about. That's the funny thing too. I wanted to talk about the other leaks. Well, no, this one, the toys that I talked about today, they're not leaks. These were actually official. I mean, you can literally go on the Toy Arc website, and then that's like legit news. The leaks is regarding the new TMNT movie, and that is what I wanted to talk about originally. I wasn't even planning on talking about these. Heck, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to make a video today because I had to go to work. So it's like, okay, let's see if I can at least pump this out before I go. So, okay, we got that kind of going on. So that's great. At least I'm up to code. So until then, hope you guys enjoyed the video, sort of. What do you think of the new figures? I mean, like I say, if you want to check them out, I posted the pictures on my community tab. So please give it a look, And yeah, that's about it. So I hope you guys stay safe out there. As always, it's pretty ugly outside, unfortunately. I hate when it's cloudy. I really do. I don't like it. But, it is what it is. So hope you guys stay safe out there, and that's about it. See ya.